You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers about hikers for everybody.
This is the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where we hang out and talk about everything from hammocks and hammock camping to the group hangs from around the country. Hey everyone, welcome to the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where we unwind, relax, and delve into all things hammock related. Join us as we swing into the world of hammocks, exploring tips and tricks for setting up that perfect hang, sharing stories of outdoor adventures, and discovering the latest trends in hammock camping and relaxation. Whether you're a seasoned hammocker or new to the art of hanging, this podcast is your cozy corner to kick back, escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and soak in the soothing atmosphere of the hammock culture. Prepare to be inspired, educated, and entertained as we embrace the hammock lifestyle together. So grab your favorite hammock, find that perfect spot to hang, and let's embark on a hammock-filled journey that will leave you feeling refreshed, rejuvenated, and ready to take on the world. This is the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where every episode is a breath of fresh air. Let's get started.
Howdy hangers, welcome to this week's episode of the Hammock Hangers Podcast. Now this week's episode is going to be quite a little bit different. I'm kind of quote unquote going rogue this week. I'm making an episode all by myself, so it's just me and my singular cup of coffee. Talking to you guys about a kind of a big upcoming trip that we have coming up again, and that is going to be HangCon Europe. We had such a phenomenal time last year going over to Copenhagen and experiencing HangCon Denmark with the Danish Outdoor Festival, and we get to do it again this year, and we are super excited. Now, over the course of the last year, we've been talking at Hangs and as well on the podcast about our experience last year and have really started garnering quite a bit of excitement from some of our American folks also making the trip over to the Danish Outdoor Festival and HangCon Europe, which also we're super excited about because we think everyone should be able to experience this event as well if you are able. However, for a lot of people, this may be their first flight on an airplane, like it was Paul's last year, or it may be your first time traveling outside of the country. I want to just put everything to ease and say that this trip last year was an extremely smooth sailing experience, although we also flew instead of sailed, but hopefully this will remain the case this coming year as well. But I kind of wanted to talk through a few of the details that I went through in terms of preparing for the trip, making my plans, booking my flights, and what you might want to look at when you are preparing for your potential or actual trip to come over to HangCon Europe. So without further ado, let's get into the nitty-gritty of planning for my excursion to HangCon Europe. First thing, obviously, is the flight. The flight seems to be the biggest step that really makes the trip real for us. Once we had our flights locked in, that's really when the excitement said, hey, this is real again for us. And we're really excited this year because the stars aligned, and one of our HangCon staff and one of my best friends, Waterboy, or Matt, is able to make it over to HangCon Europe for his first time this year. So I'm also making this video for maybe a little bit for him as well. But he is coming over with me. Slight change from last year where my wife and Paul and I all traveled together when we flew out of Orlando. We're going to do this a little bit different this year. Unfortunately, Mountain Minnie, or my wife, will not be able to make it this year. So Matt is kind of the stand-on for Dawn. However, Paul will be traveling with his wife, Deanna. So we're bringing one extra person, and at least one of us will have our wives there to kind of keep us in check. But Paul will be traveling out of Orlando again. However, me and Matt will be traveling out of Tampa. It was just a little bit easier, and just the way the flights were rolling out, it just made it more logistically sound for us to go that route. But we're looking at flights. And when I'm looking at flights, there's so many options out there about where you can go. Do you go through the airline? Do you go through a travel agent? Do you go through somewhere like hotels.com? Or there's upteen bajillion websites and you don't know if they're like, I don't know, like scams or what exactly going on. But this is what I did. One of the new tools that I discovered this year that really helped me kind of gauge what flights might look like and what they would maybe kind of run is Google Flights. It's a great option built right into the Google platform that you can just click where you want to fly out of and where you want to fly into. Or even if you just know a city, you could plug that in as well, and it will give you some airport options and your dates, and it's going to give you a long list of possible flights and prices, layovers, and lots of information that you need to decide which flight is going to work best for your situation. Now, when I was looking at flights, I had a few criteria that might be different than some of you all. So one of the criteria that I had for picking the flight that I wanted to take over to Copenhagen, well, for one, was the cost. Flights can vary drastically between prices and what's available. But I think my overall biggest thing was I really didn't want to pay an arm and a leg for a plane ticket. I can kind of put up with the slight uncomfortableness of economy for, I want to say the flight was around 9 hours over and about 7 hours back. I'm probably going to pop some type of sleeping pill and time travel all the way over and probably do the same thing on the way back. So I'm not really looking for, any first class or business class. And so cost is really the main thing that I was really focused on. The next thing that I was looking for were layovers. I wanted less than 2 or 2 or less. And if the plane did have a layover, I wanted it at least an hour and a half, or if domestic airports, at least an hour. But I didn't want anything over 3 hours. Most of our flights last year had relatively short layover times, with the exception of one. No, I take that back. With the exception of 2. Luckily, one of them was a 2.5 hour flight layover, but we totally needed that because that was in Chicago O'Hare and we barely got on the plane. However, our layover last year in Toronto was 7 hours, and it actually ended up being closer to 8.5, 9 by the time the plane left to fly into Copenhagen. So I definitely didn't want to do that again. So low price, less layovers, no more than 2, and have the layovers be at least an hour to an hour and a half. That gives you plenty of time to kind of fudge with delays in your flight and landing and getting off the plane and getting onto your next flight and making sure you don't miss that. Giving yourself at least an hour and a half is just for peace of mind and making sure that you make your connecting flights. My goal this year, and this is still the case, is I wanted to travel this year without any checked bags. Looking to pack everything nice and tidy into my carry-on and my personal item. And I'm going to go through the gear that I'm going to be taking a little bit later in the episode, but that's my goal. I did not want to have to worry about checking a bag, having to, pay for that extra cost, because you're looking at anywhere between $75 to $150 each way flying. And yeah, that can add up. I think we ended up with a few $100s last year just in checked bag fees. And I didn't want to do that again this year. Plus, it's a lot easier to not have to worry about picking up luggage, making sure that it arrived. If you can have everything on the plane with you, the check bags and the personal items that I have, I can throw them on as backpacks, and the other one is easily carried, similar to a briefcase, so I can grab and go and get from point A to point B very, very quickly and not have to worry about bulky, heavy, cumbersome luggage that I have to worry about. Did they deliver it in the right airport? And just that's another piece of the puzzle that, well, I don't have to worry about. So, and my final goal was to avoid Chicago O'Hare Airport at all costs. Unfortunately, that was not in the cards for this year. However, I am flying to Chicago O'Hare from Tampa, but it is just out of the country. When I come back into the country, I'll be flying through Dallas. I have 2 layovers on our flight out, and I have 2 layovers in our flight back. So not that bad. And just for transparency, my flight ended up being probably in the realm of about $700 with taxes and things like that, give or take. Now, where did I actually end up buying my tickets? So with Google Flights, you can look at tickets and find stuff that you want, and then you can give you a few options of where you could buy, like Priceline or directly through the airline. But however, I use another site, and I was able to find my ticket probably $100, $200 cheaper than I would have on Google Flights. And that is a website called Kayak. A friend of mine who does a lot of international travel, she showed me this website and really suggested that I give this a shot. And I did. Very easy, user-friendly website to go through. I was able to find my ticket. It had everything that I wanted, with the exception of Chicago O'Hare, but I'll suck it up. And I was able to purchase it with a link through the website to American Airlines, and I was good to go. So hopefully that still works out well. But everything was kind of locked in for flights. So the trip at this point became real. We had tickets. We already had our passports, but everything was in motion for us to return to Denmark again in 2025. Now, what about our arrival to Copenhagen? And hey, a lot of you guys have asked me, well, how do I get from Copenhagen to the festival? Like, do I rent a car, or, how far is it? Do I take a taxi, or however, how does that all work? Well, let me just tell you that the Danes have an amazing series of public transportation, and it's actually significantly easier than you would think. No, you do not need to rent a car. You can, at the very least, get a taxi from a taxi or an Uber or some sort of ride share. Find a ride from the airport to the train station. And from the train station, you can get on a train and pretty much go to the stop of where the event is taking place, which is only, I want to say, 30 minutes to 45 minutes from Copenhagen. Get off and really walk to the festival. And then when the festival is over, hop back on the train, go back into Copenhagen. And we are actually choosing to stay in Copenhagen a few days after the festival. And we're going to get a taxi from our hotel to the airport, and we're going to be flying back home. So no need to worry about renting a car and the headache that involves as well, which is something I am all for. That's one of my personal irritants, is renting a vehicle and all the stress it is of having a vehicle that I'm responsible for. That, again, I just don't want the headache, and I want to make this trip as easy and user-friendly as possible, not only for you guys, but also for me too. I don't like to make things extra difficult if they don't need to be. Now, as far as Copenhagen and hotels, this is something that I was really shocked at. Copenhagen being a very large city, I was thinking, gosh, these hotels are going to be astronomically expensive. They really aren't. The hotels that we got are pretty comparable to what we pay here in the States. I've had a little of experience booking rooms for my wife and daughter because they've been doing full throes of dance season and going to dance competitions, and they need hotel rooms. And man, those hotel rooms are definitely not cheap. And for someone that used to work in a hotel, I have a really hard time stomaching some of the costs that I know how much the hotels could rent rooms for and how much they're charging. Whew, it's a hard sell. However, the rooms in Copenhagen were not bad. In fact, you can get them significantly cheaper than what we get here. And if you don't mind a small room, which I will say European hotels rooms are a little bit more cozy than we see here in the States. But again, you're paying probably a lot less as well. There were some very highly rated hotel rooms within walking distance from the train station in Copenhagen that were running anywhere between $60 to $90 a night, and got really good reviews. They included breakfast. Some you had to pay for breakfast, which that's a whole nother gamut. Hotel breakfasts, at least what we experienced last year, was nothing like in the sad affairs that an American hotel breakfast is. The hotel breakfast last year at our hotel was absolutely mind-boggling. In fact, it may have been one of the better dining experiences that we had while we were over there. But if you need to come into Copenhagen a little bit earlier because you found a really great deal on a flight that was before the festival, or if you wanted to spend some time a little bit later, Copenhagen is a really amazing city that I strongly encourage you to check out. But again, hotels right there. Transportation really easy to get to and from. Copenhagen itself is a super walkable city if you don't mind the walking. It's very pretty. It's very pedestrian friendly. And that would be something that is very easily done without the use of a car. If you did want to rent something, I would strongly suggest maybe renting a bike, because bike culture is huge over there, and a lot of Danes do take bikes when they are traveling within the city. So we've talked about flights. We've talked about kind of logistics on getting to the airport, to the event, and staying either before or after the event. But let's talk about some things that I'm actually bringing. So clothes is a big one that I get asked quite about. Like, what's the temperature over there? Like, what did you pack for? So you have to realize that Denmark is significantly higher latitude. Is that the right one? Yes, latitude than the United States is. So their temperatures, where, well, here in Florida, it's not too bad quite yet, but it's starting to warm up over there. In Denmark, it's still probably holding steady somewhere between the 30s and the 50s. On top of that, they get very similar humidity that we get in Florida because of the water that, is surrounding Denmark with the North Sea. And they don't have these huge swings in temperatures between day and night. So here's what I am planning on bringing and fitting into my bags with various packing techniques. So I am taking 3 Mountain Hardwear pairs of pants that are the zippable kind of adventure hiking pants. I really like the ones from Mountain Hardwear. They seem to be a little bit more robust than the Columbia ones, and I really like the colors. And I'm fully well aware that they just scream tourist. Don't care. They're comfortable for me. They can really be, if I get too hot, I can adjust them. so they can breathe a little bit better, especially if I'm in an airport or in a plane that is kind of stuffy. I can unzip and we'll be good to go. But I'm taking 3 pairs of those pants, and that will kind of be what I wear for pretty much the duration of the trip. I'm also going to take 3 long sleeve polyester shirts. I think I've got 2 from Mountain Hardware, and I've got 1 from maybe Columbia. I think that's the other one that I have. But really, those polyester shirts that are more UV sun shirts than base layers. Depending on what the weather looks like, a lot closer to the event, I might be looking at taking some of my merino wool base layers. I've got some from REI that usually get thrown into my suitcase as well. But we'll just kind of play that game as it is. Polyester is a really good thing because it breathes and it doesn't hold in moisture that is constantly out there. Last year as well, it rained quite a bit while we were over there. Really hoping that maybe the rain will give us a break while we're over there, but that's not going to stop us from enjoying the event. But the polyester definitely helps with not holding in that moisture and staying dry. I do have wool socks that I'm going to be bringing. For a type of trip like this, I only bring wool socks. My favorite brand is from Farm to Feet. They do a really great hiker, a medium cushion hiker sock that I absolutely love. It's kind of mid-ankle, and it fits really well. It provides a lot of cushion, and with the wool, it helps keep my feet dry and breathable, and it doesn't hold stank like some of the other ones. I also have some extra large size alpaca wool socks that I usually bring as sleeping socks as well. So they'll be in my bag as well. Type of shoes that I'm going to be bringing with me. I have a light trail runner by Solomon that I'm going to be wearing. Bought those before my trip last year, and they work like a champ. They are super light. They were super comfortable, and they held up, provided great traction in the mud that we saw quite a bit of last year because, like I said, there was quite a bit of rain. But the main thing was they were comfortable not only walking outside in the festival, but they were also still super comfortable trekking around airports and also walking all around Copenhagen as well. I'm also going to be bringing a pair of Zero sandals from Zero Shoes. I just like having those to kind of wear around the hotel room. And depending on what the weather is like at the festival, maybe wearing some of those as well. Just a really easy camp shoe that I can just throw in that's not going to take up a lot of room, that just kind of fulfills the purpose of protecting my feet from the rocks or whatever I'm not stepping on. Now, the next piece of gear is essential, and I'm going to be bringing probably 2 of them, is my Light Heart Gear hoodie. Now, Paul, I, and Dawn last year essentially lived in our Light Heart Gear hoodies the entire time. We were pretty much from the point that we left the United States to when we got back. They were just a great piece of gear, and I would not leave home without them. Again, I want to be looking at the weather to see if I need to bring my just regular Alpha Grid Light Heart gear, or if I need to bring my Alpha Direct 120. If it's going to be a little bit cooler, I might just bring the Grid. If looking to be a little bit warmer, I might bring the 120. Or if I'm really studious with my packing, I might be able to fit both in because I'm sure they'll definitely get worn. And yeah, I absolutely love my Light Heart Gear hoodies. I also would be bringing 2 different hats as a thermal hat, depending on the weather. Really, really loving my not Light Heart Gear, my UGQ Scully. It's super light, packs down super small. more than likely that will be in my bag as well. On top of, I have a beanie made from Jason from Walhalla Outdoor, Walhalla Hammocks. And it's just kind of this patchwork quilt kind of looking beanie that kind of looks kind of put together because it was made from scraps, but I absolutely love it. It's really cool. It's very unique. There's only one other one, and he has the other one. So that definitely goes in my bag. And a lot of that stuff I can really ball into a pillow and use on the airport, or use in the plane, or use as a pillow in my hammock as well. Kind of the multi-purpose gear that I can use to help save space in my 2 tiny bags that I will be taking. I also will be taking a pair of wool gloves. Last year, my hands got a little bit chilly, and I just don't want to risk that again. So I'm going to be bringing some gloves, and hopefully they make it in. I'm not usually a person to wear gloves, but I definitely needed them last year. Now, as far as my hammock gear that I'm going to be bringing, so learned a lot last year about what I needed to bring and what I'm going to be bringing this year. Not going to be bringing a bunch of extra gear. There may be some products coming over with me to kind of show off. Don't know if that's actually going to come to fruition, but hopefully that does. Now, if that doesn't come in, here's the gear load out that I'm taking. I will be sporting my hammock. I will be sporting my Dutchware Quilted Chameleon. Absolutely love that hammock. And Matt will actually be supporting another insulated hammock. He will be supporting a Superior Gear 30-degree hammock. We really do love the insulated hammocks, just not another thing that we have to set up, and it just makes life a little bit easier. My top quilt that I'll be bringing is my absolute favorite top quilt that I have not stopped using since HangCon when I got it. It is my UGQ 20-degree Bandit. It has hands down replaced my blanket at home. That's what I've been sleeping on in my bed. I just can't give it up. It is just super comfortable. And Chad with UGQ did an amazing job on it. And I absolutely love it. Yeah, so if you're in the market for a great insulated hammock, definitely check out the Dutchware Quilted Chameleon and the Superior Gear hammocks. 2 great offerings from 2 great vendors that have supported HangCon as well as the hammock community throughout the years. And if you're looking for a standout top quilt, UGQ's Bandit is top of the line. It is hands down my favorite top quilt right now, and probably for the foreseeable future, because it is pretty wicked sweet. Now, my tarp situation that I'm going to be looking at, I'm going to be taking my custom printed HangCon tarp that we got from Dutchware. It's a bonded tarp, 12-foot rectangle. So I can choose to create doors if I want. But I do absolutely love the bonded tarps. I love the xenon material. It packs down really light. It packs down really small. And I can't say anything better about that tarp. Now, I have a piece of gear that I used all last year, and I have nothing but wonderful things to say about it. I'm going to be packing my hammock and my top quilt and my suspension all in a Anaconda by Trailheads. Absolutely great piece of gear. I never thought that I would say, hey, I think people should spend $100 on a stuff sack. Originally, I thought that it was really silly too and just overpriced. But once I got it and started using it, wow, I will not go anywhere without it. It's become such an essential piece of my gear that I take out. Absolutely love it. So if you're on the fence looking at the Anacondas, yes, they are a little bit pricey, but they are a solid piece of gear if that's what you're looking for. And that's kind of a one-stop shop for setup and teardown. Now, a few other pieces of gear that are going to be in my pack that I will be taking. Y'all know I got to have my coffee. So I will be taking an AeroPress Go, which pretty much always lives in my pack as well. I will be taking a stove. I will be taking my DJI cam to hopefully get some great video. We'll be doing some Facebook lives while we're over there as well. So make sure that you follow us on Facebook, so you can definitely see some of that and be a part of our adventures in that capacity. Be bringing a hip pack or a fanny pack to kind of carry things around in, just so I can have my wallet, I can have my passport, I can have my phone kind of right there. But I'm not having to worry about them in my pocket. I can have that as a bag attached to me. Always, I know my wife is just worried about me losing my passport. So it will definitely be in a bag that I have attached to the hip. Now, as far as my bags that I'm actually going to be taking, so we definitely tried some different options last year, not just for Denmark last year, but I flew out to California and we did some, weekend long trips here in Florida. We also did our right up the East Coast road trip last summer. And so we've tried quite a bit of different luggage options to see what's really best for us. And this year, I'm changing one piece of gear that I didn't use last year, but my personal item pack is still going to be the same because it has served me so well. My personal item that is the bag that I can take and carry, and it fits easily under the seat, and I can cram a lot of stuff into it, is the Osprey Daylight 26 plus 6. So it's a 26 liter pack with an option of a zippered extender per se, that it adds 6 more liters to the pack. But if you don't have the zipper, it fits super easy under those seats of any plane that I was in last year with room to spare. It was really a great piece of gear. It has a side handle, so you can carry it like a briefcase. It also has the straps. It's got the sternum straps. So it can be super easily carried and comfortable to carry as well. So yeah, the Daylight 26 plus 6 version. Get a sip of coffee here to wet my whistle a little bit. I really like to give John Batts from 803 Coffee a shout out. He at HangCon was selling some coffee, and I definitely love his coffee. His Kenyan medium roast was kind of the first coffee that I tried from them that I really, really liked. Oh, no, I take that back. It is a light roast, but it has a lot of the robustness of a medium that I kind of like. But I'm a snob for Ethiopian blends, and they just started carrying Ethiopian beans. Unfortunately, he had ran out by the time that I saw him at HangCon, but he was so kind, and he sent me a bag of Ethiopian blends. So that's what I'm drinking right now. Really great cup of coffee. I might be taking some over to Denmark as well. I've drank all the wonderful coffee that our Danish friends brought me over in HangCon, so I'll definitely be stocking up there as well. But man, caffeine's got to make it happen. Now, as far as my carry-on bag, this is something that I'm trying new. Not that what I took last year didn't work. I just think because I'm not taking a checked bag, I wanted something that I could push the envelope just a little bit bigger. So what I'm going to be taking for my carry-on is the Patagonia Black Hole 55-liter duffel bag. So it's a little bit bigger, but it is a soft-sided suitcase, so I can kind of cram it into kind of the compact places that are on a lot of these airplanes, especially like if you're at the tail end, kind of like these economy seats. I'll probably be one of the last people to get on. So those spaces in those overhead compartments are kind of hard to come by, especially if you're one of the lighter persons on the plane. So a bag that I don't have to be so rigid with, that I can kind of mold and figure to kind of cram into whatever leftover spaces there are in those overhead compartments. that's what I'm going to do. So that was something for me. I wanted a soft-sided bag, and that kind of fit all my other checklists. It also packs down easily and stores into an own pocket within the bag. So I'm not going to be looking like a vagabond hopping off of a train with rolly wheelie backpacks and suitcases like we were last year. We learned a lot last year. And yeah, we won't be making those same mistakes this year. So now, with not being able to bring a checked bag, there are two things that you need to be aware of if you want to do the same thing as me and just not take a checked bag. You will have to find some avenue for tent stakes to stake out your tarps, or there are definitely outdoor outfitters there that you can get some from, or you can maybe rely on sticks, or maybe you can find someone that will lend you a knife that you could kind of fix your own. There may be some vendors at the Danish Outdoor Festival that you can get some tent stakes from them as well. But tent stakes, if you're not hitting a check bag, you're not going to be able to carry those on the plane. And the one thing that a lot of I was really looking for a lot last year, and all of our international guests looking for this year. Obviously, you can't take butane fuel for your alcohol stoves or your propane, any type of fuel that you're going to need for your stove. So that is something you're going to have to purchase once you arrive. But again, there's options for that, but that is something to just take in consideration. One of the cool things that we are going to get to do this year that we didn't get to do last year is a fire. And so hopefully we can get that going and rolling. So if push comes to shove, I could definitely use just regular fire to boil water to make my coffee, but coffee has to happen. And I'm not a huge overall a huge fan of instant coffee. I'm kind of picky on that, but yeah, if that's the only caffeine that you can get, as I discovered last year, thanks Rasmus or Fimble for hooking me up with some instant coffee last year. But yeah, fuel would definitely be something that you would have to pick up once you got there. Now, a few other questions that have come up quite frequently from friends that I know that are going over this year, or from a lot of you that have asked us either on social media or asked at HangCon, that I kind of wanted to address. When you're going to a different country, especially one that the native language is not English, how do you communicate? Like, what happens when you go to a restaurant and the entire menu is, in our case, Danish? Or when you go to a grocery store and everything is in another language, what do you do? Well, you're in a grocery store, you kind of look for familiar brands. Luckily, we're in a global economy, so a lot of the brands are shipped internationally. So a Coca-Cola will still look like a Coca-Cola. You can kind of look for familiar things, but again, investigate the local flavors, guys. You're going to see things in other countries that maybe you have never seen before in your life. I encourage you to just lean into the adventure and investigate those flavors, investigate those foods, and investigate those smells, those textures. Really lean into that if that's something that you're up for, which hopefully you will be. It'll make your experience so much more beneficial. One huge tool that we used quite frequently while we were over there was Google Translate. Google Translate was absolutely wonderful. You just open up the app and it has a little camera. You just show it over what you're trying to read and it translates for you in real time. There is also some options that you can speak into and it will translate in real time to another language. However, we didn't have to use that because the level of bilingualness, I guess that's the word, the level of bilingual speaking of pretty much everybody that we met was absolutely wonderful. It's in Denmark, a lot of people can go from Danish to English just without taking a second thought. And even some have an accent, so they're very easy to understand. We never had an instant that we couldn't communicate because of a language barrier as far as verbal communication. The second thing that we get asked about is cash. Like, do I need to exchange out some cash for the Danish krone? I did not. I didn't go and transfer any cash to the local currency. I used Google Pay or Apple Pay or PayPal or my debit card and my credit card have a NFC chip that I could just scan and go. It automatically converted. I didn't have to do any sort of currency exchange one bit. Now, I will say, if you are trying to budget as much as you can, kind of have an idea about what the cost is. So when you do get back, you aren't like overly shocked that, holy crap, I paid $15 for a cappuccino, which happened to me last year. It was a really good cappuccino and I really, really needed it. But yeah, it was kind of a stout drink as far as the price when I saw it a month later. So just kind of be aware. The next question that we got, like phone plan. And apparently this is definitely an American thing, because a lot of our international guests this year told us that, hey, they don't have to do anything. Their planes naturally transfer over. I have Verizon, and so I was able to go onto my plan last year and set up an international agreement. And what that did was every day that I used my phone, it was something like $10 per day. I got X number of megabytes or gigabytes of data, and I got phone international plan that I could use my phone, that I could call home. I could still surf the internet while I was over there, and it ended up being like $10 to $20 per day that I used it. There may be cheaper options, but with Verizon, it was a really easy thing to do. I didn't even have to go into the store. I could go into my app, go in, select this option, and boom, I was good to go. And the good thing is, if you don't use it, then it doesn't charge you. So if you want to go completely off grid for the festival, then you don't have to worry about being charged. That it's not a plan that you've got to commit to. If you use it, they charge you. If you don't, they don't. It's a relatively easy process. If you have any other questions that you have for me or about the experience, feel free to reach out either on Facebook or YouTube, or send us an email through our HangCon website. We would love to hear from you. We would love to help answer any questions that you guys have about coming over for HangCon Europe. Now, I would encourage you guys, if you have the opportunity and you have the flexibility, to be able and open to exploring Copenhagen after the event or before the event. Some of the things that I am really looking forward to is coming back in. Again, the food was really, really amazing. The hot dogs over there were incredible. Really, everything just tastes different. Not in a bad way, just different. And I don't know if that's more of a placebo effect, because you're in a new country and so everything's just naturally better. But yeah, they were really, really great. They had a rutabaga soda that we got last year that was really, really good. Obviously, you guys have heard me talk about the salty licorice that you cannot get here in America. Trust me, I've tried. Even if you order the exact same thing that you get in Denmark, they Americanize it or something and make it just not the same. My daughter and I fell in love with salty Danish licorice, and we tried ordering some from Amazon. It looked like the exact same packaging and everything, but when it arrived, it definitely was not the same. But some of the things that I'm looking at trying this year was some of that salty licorice ice cream. Like, I really want some of the ice cream. Again, trying more schmoble, trying maybe some herring that I've heard is kind of a big up there. I'm not a huge fish fan, but again, I'm leaning into the adventure. And also maybe hitting up a few more coffee roasters as well, because, well, I might have a caffeine problem. But really excited of seeing everyone again. And so let's talk about the event itself. So HangCon Europe is significantly different from HangCon US. HangCon Europe is kind of a side project of a partnership that we have with the Danish Outdoor Festival. They do offer classes. It's more of a lecture style than necessarily like hands-on classes, but they offer a wide variety of classes and lectures from anything from bushcrafting to just various types of adventuring, some manufacturers of different outdoor gear that you can see. We did some presentations, and we're gonna be doing some presentations there. We're gonna be doing some podcast recording. Lord willing, the creek don't rise. So really looking forward to that. Dave Canterbury is going to be back over there. Shug is going to be back over there with us, and lots of more American vendors are going to make it over as well. We've been told Dutch, Danny from Superior Gear, Corey from Majestic, Chad from UGQ, and I know that I'm missing a few others as well. But we're really looking forward to seeing all those guys as well. Now, what are we doing for food? Now, food, they do not provide any meals over there. However, they do have food trucks on site that you can get food from. If they are there, I would strongly suggest there's a barbecue food truck that was there that we actually ended up going to the restaurant in Copenhagen as well, called War Pigs. Amazing barbecue. Their pulled pork was maybe not the best. However, and we could have just had a bad day, but their ribs, their brisket, their chicken, their sausage was just on point. It was just absolutely amazing. And I'm really picky on my barbecue. They also had these hush puppies with this spicy pimento cheese, that it was just, it was amazing. And the restaurant there as well was just really on point. Really wide selections of adult beverages as well, if that's kind of your alley as well. I will say, I tried a few beers over there last year, and I was very pleasantly surprised. But again, I'm kind of wondering if that's a placebo effect, or, hey, I've been in the woods, I can release a beer. But yeah, really great event. The community there is just as welcoming, just as open as we are over here. I made some really great friends that I still keep in touch with on a regular basis, just from our short time at the festival last year. I'm sure that will be the case for you all as well. Again, just kind of lean into the adventure. Just kind of be open for letting things happen. Just relax and just let the adventure take care of itself, and just be open and flexible. That's going to wrap it up for this week. I hope you've enjoyed what you've heard, just me rambling for about an hour. Hopefully, if you had some questions, these have been answered. And if you still have open questions, feel free to just drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. We would love to help maybe smooth out some of the questions that you have to make your trip to HangCon Europe, if not this year, in the future, a reality. If you just absolutely love the Hammock Hangers podcast, and for one, we love you 13 people that listen to us. No. I would encourage you guys to really hop on wherever you get your podcasts and like our episode, as well as subscribe and leave us a review. In the world of digital age and the algorithm, it really helps get the message of the Hammock Hangers podcast out to more people. And hey, if you take some benefit from this, it's a free option. And we thoroughly appreciate everyone that has shared, liked, and subscribed and left us a positive review on either Spotify or Apple Music. You guys are what make this community great. And keep doing you. Keep doing you. And we'll keep doing this. And until next time, everybody, happy hanging.
As we gently sway out of another hammock field episode, we want to thank you, our wonderful listeners, for hanging out with us on the Hammock Hangers podcast. We hope that you have found relaxation, inspiration, and a renewed sense of connection to nature through our discussions. Remember to keep that hammock spirit alive in your daily life, whether it's by taking a few moments to unwind in your own backyard oasis or by planning your next hammock adventure in the great outdoors. Embracing the tranquility, embracing the simplicity, and never forget the joy that comes from simply hanging around. Before we part ways, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date with all things hammock related. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for the Hammock Hangers Podcast. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to hang with you again on our next episode. Until then, stay relaxed, stay adventurous, and keep on hanging those hammocks high. From all of us here at the Hammock Hangers Podcast, we wish you peaceful hangs and endless relaxation. Thank you for tuning in. Happy hanging, everyone.